and welcome to One More Thing podcast. This morning, here with Dr. Baucom.
Good morning.
Good morning. Week 4, becoming more. I'm a poet and didn't know it there.
That's it.
That's right.
That's good.
I love this one, and I was looking forward to this sermon, even from last week's One More Thing, when you kind of talked about, hey, I'm going to be talking about sort of the insecurities and sort of excuses that Moses had. And I love the way that you set up the sermon. And the first point really was about our insecurities. So I want to ask you, as a pastor who feels this calling from God, what insecurities did you feel when you worked in church world like me most of your life? You became disenchanted with the whole bureaucracy and sort of power structure. You did something else, and you were really good at it. Mm-hmm. And then you felt that calling again. Like, that's exactly how my life story goes. But yet, coming to Sarasota, if the story of Moses is sort of this universal template for all of us, what did you feel as a leader coming in? What were some of your own insecurities?
Well, I back up first to say my greater insecurities were earlier on when I first came into ministry. So in 1981, December of 81, I began pastoring a small church in Lake City, Florida. And I came from 4 years of college, 4 years of graduate school. And one day, you're a student. I mean, I taught, Bible studies in a small group, and I sang in a choir for years, and I sat around and had coffee with other guys like me, and we talked about all the theological things. Then I go to Lake City, which is a pretty remote, kind of a backwoods area of Florida. Mm-hmm. It's really deep south. And you go there, but this is what most people did not know. You go there and you interview, you become pastor, and you go there excited. There's 25 people when I got there, 25. And I preach Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night. 3 different sermons every week. And you go to 25 people.
Yeah.
Well, but I had this well that I'd preached maybe 6 times in my life. Mm-hmm. 6 times. I'd never preached 15 minutes in my whole life.
Oh,
and all of a sudden, I'm going, I got to come up with all this stuff. I got to come up with content, and I got to do it in a way that's, understandable, recognizable. And at first, the sermons were short, and then I'd preach Sunday night, and every week it was just a struggle to write 3 sermons a week. Oof. So it was a little overwhelming. Did I feel insecure? I was very insecure.
Yeah.
I thought, what did I get myself into? I mean, I've been writing research papers and turning in papers. That's not a problem, but this was a different animal. It's like giving a TED Talk 3 times a week.
Yep.
And it was, I didn't really feel like I was up for it. And I stayed there. It was probably the reason I stayed there such a short amount. I was only there 20 months. And I laughingly said that was only 18 months too long.
Yeah.
But I didn't fit, even though I'm a Southern guy.
Yeah.
And I don't think the reason I didn't fit was them. I think the problem was me. Mm. And I just was at such an early stage in my development that I wasn't mature enough to be able to handle the different things. I mean, I started playing guitar. I visited my church every week.
Yeah.
And they finally had to say, you don't need to visit us this week. But I had nothing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a full-time job, full-time student, plus I played sports. I did all kinds of stuff that was fun, but it just didn't work. So so that was my insecurity. Then I went from there to become an associate pastor for a few years, and that was a lot. It was refreshing. I loved it. But then there was a call in my life that said, this is you're going to be a pastor, not an associate. And so I moved up to Monticello, where I went to a small church of about 70, but I was a lead pastor there, and that's when I went to Florida State.
Yeah.
So because it was a small church, you really have a lot of time with a small church.
Yes.
It's not a lot of work required. And by then, I had a chance to build some sermons up.
Yeah.
At least I'd preached a lot of sermons, and even when I was associate, I preached once a week.
Yeah.
For 4 years. That's a lot that you're having in the well. The well became more in the well.
Yeah.
And that was a good experience. And I moved to Sarasota. But when I left the denomination in 1998, it was not a problem with the well. Mm-hmm. The problem there was just I was burned, like you said, and I needed to change. The political structure was frustrating.
Yeah.
And I wanted to lead, and I use the analogy of Moses. If Moses had had the committee structure and the board structure that I was in, he would have never gotten to go through the Red Sea.
Yeah.
He never pulled them out of Egypt. There would have
Yep.
been no miracles done because they wouldn't let you do miracles. We're going to vote on everything.
That's right.
And in the vote, you don't want to vote and have a 60-40.
Yeah.
Unless it's a strong majority, you need to go back. And I would not accept a 60-40 vote on anything
Yeah.
because I'm already half shot in the foot.
That's right.
So, but my insecurities became less. I think with the more education I got, the more confident I got, the more mature I got, my confidence grew. But to the insecurities of starting Suncoast, I had such a God encounter in my life that my insecurities were not nearly what they should have been. They should have been.
Yeah, yeah.
I look back and go, you should have been out. Are you out of your freaking
that's
mind?
good.
I should not have done a lot of things I did, but I calculated the risk. I went with my heart, and I felt like I was involved in some divine plan for my life, and I was one of the players in this great drama.
Yep.
And I did not sense those insecurities. I did come back in 2008 when, we built the building, we borrowed a lot of money, and we swapped our interest rate from a variable rate to a fixed rate because, they came in and the bank sold us, can you really afford the Jimmy Carter years? Can you afford 10%? No. Well, you can fix this rate at 5.5, whatever, rather than a variable rate.
Right.
So we said, okay. And about 3 or 4 months later, when 2008 the wheels came off, interest rates went to 0 in LIBOR. Our interest rate went from 5% to 12. Insecurity. Our payment went up $36,000 a month.
Holy.
And I was like, this, I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
I'd been deceived.
Yep.
And we just about went under.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say if it had not been for the business aspect relationship with the school, helping us with some of the resources, because people lost their jobs. Friends of mine who are in companies, they lost their companies. And at church, we were being yanked around by this pretense of a fixed rate that really was not a fixed rate. It was a synthetic fixed rate.
Wrong.
So we bought what's called a swap. They said, you want to swap this for this? Yes. No, we bought as a swap, which was a hedge fund.
Yeah.
And we did not know it. Ultimately, the bank did work with us in some measure, interest only. And then finally, I took them to court.
Yeah. Some legal stuff there.
I hired an attorney and said, this isn't right. And they took them to court. And I'm not going to tell you the bank, but ultimately they settled. The judge was not happy with them. He felt like we'd been deceived. And we would have settled for just a lower interest rate, but they ended up knocking a lot off the mortgage and made us stay with the bank. For 5 years at 2%.
Nice.
So the bank they really felt thoroughly spanked by the legal system, and I think they were fraudulent.
Yeah.
And I would never do business with that bank again. But here's what I also know is that probably other banks are selling the same product. I don't think my banker really knew. So I like to give everybody a little bit of grace in there. But once you get up the corporate ladder, those are the things that are frustrating.
Yeah.
Now, was I insecure then? Very insecure, because I thought this, we had multiple campuses. We had one in Northport. We had to shut it down. We went into retrenchment just to try to survive.
Wow.
So those insecurities,
Yes.
yeah, I thought this could turn and go badly. And,
Really quick.
And it did not. And I the bank I sued or took to court, they were trying to keep us afloat too. It's not in their best interest.
It's in their best interest.
Yeah,
too.
and my bank loan officer was a friend of mine, and he was really not happy with the bank that he worked for. Right after that, he quit and went to another institution. But those are the big insecurities. My relationship with God, like with you, once you find out that God loves you and He's in your camp all the time,
Yep.
you just kind of breathe in and breathe out and realize I'm in a good place. This is a great life. The problems I have are first world problems.
Yep.
What would have happened if we'd lost the property? We wouldn't have shut down. We'd have gone back to a school.
Yep.
We'd have found a way. This is the church, I think, of God, and I think it survives the test of the wilderness, whatever.
That's awesome, man. It just seems to me like with Moses and with your story of the insecurities prior to starting Suncoast, that these insecurities, and I could be wrong, but they're not based in fantasy. They're real. Like Moses, I do have a stuttering problem.
Yeah.
This is real. My bank flipped this mortgage rate. This is real. You know, I don't have a lot of sermons to pull from as a new pastor because I've been studying and writing research papers. Those are real time. And yeah, I think you're right. They're kind of like first world problems. But when you're trying to do what you feel God's called you to do, those insecurities, again, aren't based in fantasy. They're based in reality. So for people who are listening who, I don't know, maybe their insecurity is, I don't really talk about my faith with people even when it comes up because I just don't feel like I know enough or that I'm sure what I believe. And, you know, the church, the best way churches grow are when people invite people.
Right.
We can do all the marketing we want and have great communication, but it's when those people walk out. So how do you help people find the solution to their insecurities or their excuses as a pastor? Like, what do you tell someone when they say, I don't have it in me?
I would say you're a human being, and the armor that we all wear gets dinged.
Yep.
You know, I've been kicked in the shins, and you will be too. There are things in life that just happen. You can call them the potholes of life or the speed bumps of life. The things you're going fine, you hit one of those things.
That's right.
You feel like a wheel is coming off, but that's just part of life.
Yep.
And on this journey that we're on, I understand it could be, you know, a health issue. It could be, you know, rotator cuff surgery. To my friends who've recently had back surgery, hip surgery, knee surgery. I don't know if it's just an age thing, but it seems like a lot of my friends are having these repairs. But when that happens, you know, it affects you physically, and it also affects you emotionally, and sometimes it affects you spiritually.
Yep.
And how do we separate those things? But at this stage, you know, I probably wouldn't talk about the insecurities that people have as much as the damage that they receive in the course of life.
Yeah.
And we do.
Yeah.
You know, rock flies up, hits the windshield, you have a flat tire.
Yeah. That's good.
I mean, there's so many things that are going to happen. And if you live in life that none of that happens, then you're so isolated, you're not really living.
That's right.
So, I mean, I've jumped out of airplanes and scuba dive and, you know, paraglided and, you know, done all these things that I think have been exhilarating, but nothing more exhilarating than just taking a deep breath and realizing I'm all in, and whatever God wants in my life, I'm available.
Yeah.
And my insecurities are overcome in my connection with God.
Yeah.
And to realize that I don't have to pray him in. He's always there.
Yeah.
And I'm the person that needs to open my eyes and see what is already available to me. Sometimes the problem has already been dealt with and the solution's on the way, like Moses stammered and stuttered, and his God, I can't do it. And he said, look, I got your brother Aaron's already on the way. The solution to your problem, I know what your problem is. I already have the solution.
Yeah.
You just need to trust me that I'm going to make sure it happens for you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put you out there and hang you out to dry.
That's awesome, man. There's a show that Esther and I watch that we love, and it's called Love on the Spectrum. And it's about these individuals who have, you know, autism, and they're somewhere on that constellation spectrum of difference and learning difference. But one thing is they are highly aware of their insecurity in being on the spectrum. But like you said, they've also become highly aware that regardless of that, they are still valuable and worthy of love and desire it.
Right.
And value it. And I often say that a lot, is that our beliefs don't dictate or determine our behavior. Our values do.
Right.
And I might believe, man, I have these things that may, you know, I can't speak in a room of these kinds of people or hang out with this kind of people for whatever reason. You know, I drive this or whatever. But it's becoming aware, like you said, is that the heightened sense of awareness, because I think Christianity is not about acceptance of something. It's about awakening to something. And the truth is that God resides within us always, already. And that overcomes any sort of insecurity or incompetence I may feel I have, even if it's based in reality. And that's what I love about this community, is that we empower people to step beyond their comfort zones, to step beyond their belief about themselves, and even beyond their belief about God. And what we're seeing is, a healthy state of growth, a healthy community that loves people when they least expect it, when they least deserve it, like I say. And it's just something that we are all proud to be a part of that movement. And so my last question is, the thing that you said, I think it's Brendan Manning who once said it a long time ago in the Ragamuffin Gospel or whatever, that God is not going to call merely those who are qualified,
right,
but he is going to place a qualification on those who may not even feel called. What's a story that you've seen that in someone's life that you might know they might feel comfortable with you sharing? Like, this person just seemed to be one way, but God got a hold of them and like radically, like.
Yeah, I think we both could tell our story in that. God doesn't call the qualified; He qualifies the called.
Yeah.
I was a kid. I grew up in a poor home, with a bunch 9 kids, 2 bedrooms, outhouse.
Yeah.
And you go, was I really, but I felt the call at 9 years old.
Yep.
That this is what I'm going to do with my life, is going to be a pastor. I looked up to my pastor, and I just grew up as the preacher kid.
Yep.
And I knew that's what I was to do. But was I ready? No. But throughout my life, God kept qualifying me.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt the need for education. And in that education, I always felt this God connection. Every place I've gone, every degree I've sought, I felt like that God was calling me into it. It wasn't just a personal, I need this in my repertoire. I really felt like it was important for me. And so I think that's part of the qualification process. And then, He qualifies the call. He gave me a wonderful spouse to spend my life with, and we have a great relationship, even though she doesn't like it when I tell her that, God told me to tell you that you need to be more submissive, more subservient. Your job is to follow,
I was going to ask you about that.
To be my, I'm here and
God
you're here.
said.
Yeah, you're my helpmate. And, but that's, we grow through that whole process and realize the quality of life and love and marriage and partnership and all those things. I'm just grateful today.
Yeah.
I feel like that if anybody is a representation of God qualifying the called, it'd be me.
Yeah.
I don't think I was ready. I don't think I was ready when I finished college. I think I had a long way to go.
Yep.
And here's the thing. I think He's still working on it with me.
Yeah.
He's still trying to figure out some way to get me straightened out, and but we're working on it together. And when we find it, I'll be sure to share it.
That's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate the time, Dr. Baucom. Thanks, man.
My pleasure.